Last time on LMM, Lawrie found a forgotten tractor.
Ah! That's a wasp's nest. Ah!
And now, the continuation of LMM Drives.
So, it works. And that makes me exceptionally happy. I'm very happy to be able to get this out and have a drive on a tractor that I found in a shed. That has made my absolute trip to America. You don't understand how good that feels and how happy I am right now. This one was built in 1952 and features the Continental 4-cylinder 2.1 litre petrol gasoline engine. And that was the last time that this featured because they moved on to a different type of engine, a 2.2, and by a different manufacturer when they moved on to the 35. This is also the last year that started off with the gearbox without the high-low range. Originally as well, this had a start position. You put it into start on the gearbox to fire it up, but that's been modified on here to now have a push button for start. Apart from that, it's all very familiar. It all looks very similar to every other Ferguson T20 through to 35. Steering arms that come down here, the supports that hold the front end in, front crossbar, the iconic headlight strapped on the front. Yeah, it all looks like a little 35. When new, these weighed about 1,270 kilograms, and this little 4-speed gearbox gives us a top speed of 11.5 miles an hour at full chat. It's very pretty. It looks the same pretty much as any other Ferguson tractor. The other big thing to note about this and the previous tractor is they should both be grey. They only really went to being red when they became Massey Fergusons. So this should be grey, like a TE20, or possibly the grey gold. Not really sure, but I know they've both been repainted red at some time, and it's not necessarily the right colour for them. Now, I believe this isn't actually the standard seat, but this is an official seat, but not what it was shipped with, is this sprung-loaded seat to give you a bit more of a comfortable ride, because of course there is no suspension on the tractor itself. I actually quite like this. I'd like one of these on my own tractor. There's a series of notches across the back here, which is how you adjust how springy it is. So obviously I need it adjusted a bit more, because I'm just hitting the floor with it. Apart from that, the wings are the same as the TE20 and the Ferguson 35. They changed for the Massey 35 to come over the whole wheel so you could have the side lights on them. The electrics work on the key, so turning this on to full should illuminate the headlights. Starter comes in here on the same as my one. Distributor cap, because it's petrol, comes there. To the spark plugs on this side. And oil comes in here. It is in the same place as my tractor. The tyres on this are in far better condition than my own, with plenty of life left in them. In fact, this whole tractor seems to have plenty of life left in it. So this mighty engine develops 19 horsepower, which isn't a lot, and from future generations they generated more and more power. The other notable thing is I've only got one control here for my hydraulics, and this only works when the clutch is disengaged, which is different to the later tractors where you can just open it and drop them, raise the hydraulics as you're moving along. You've got two controls, whereas there is just this single control here, which makes a very big difference to the way this thing works. What I thought would be a nice thing would be just to see the two of these side by side, for you to realise that there's actually very little cosmetic difference between one of these and one of these. In fact, there's almost nothing. The front grille and the front bonnet is pretty much the same shape, but the 35 has the flap that opens on top, whereas the 30 does not. The shape of the dash also varies. The 35 has the same dash that carries on to my tractor, whereas it is only a flat dash on the back of the 20. Apart from that, the engines are different. They're both 4-cylinder running on gas, or petrol as we know it in the UK, but this one is a 2.1 litre, and that is a 2.2 litre. The gearbox is also different on this. This is a 4-speed with one reverse without the high-low, whereas the one on the 35 is a 3-speed with high-low. Oh, you can see the seat compressed under my weight. I am clearly too fat for this tractor. Controls are pretty much the same as any other one. Once you've figured out one of these tractors, I'm pretty sure you can drive any other one of them. I do like the keys, but it's a little 2-prong key. It's very different to the keys I've got on mine. Key drops into there, 3 settings. As we said earlier, the start button there, which should be that gear, and it isn't anymore. 4-speed box, release, chokes there, air intake there, oil pressure there, which goes straight to high when we run it, and then a nice little plate on here with the serial number, and then a nice little thing, which is Harry Ferguson Incorporated, Detroit, USA. So we know where it was built. I think I've talked enough about it. There's not much more to talk about this one. And because I managed to get it going, all I want to do now is to continue to drive it. So, what's it like? Well, most notable thing about it is it's got this really nice, strong seat, which takes out some of the force of the bumps. Obviously, if it was new, it would kind of support my weight a bit better, and I'm sure I could adjust it back to support my weight a bit better so that it didn't bottom out. But it does make kind of bumps a bit more pleasant on the behind, I suppose. Next thing, the throttle is very stiff, probably through lack of use. It doesn't make a huge amount of difference, honestly, to the way the tractor works. The more interesting is when you shift gear, the revs automatically drop and come back in with more to keep the tractor going. So when we pull away now, you hear the tractor automatically throttle itself around to try and get how it should be. So that's quite good, that's useful. The big change, obviously, is the fact that this only has the 4-speed box. There's no high-low on this, it's just 4 speeds. You can feel the air intake is on the top of the dash here, where the water temperature gauge is on the Ferguson 35, and you can kind of feel the cold air being sucked in on that. Oil pressure gauge just says that it's high. There really is very little difference between the tractors. To drive, they feel about the same. If anything, cruising around in this one, it feels like it's got more torque. As I said, the engine seems to compensate when it's under load and just revs harder on its own accord. I don't know if it's meant to do that or if that's just, again, because something's stuck somewhere. But this one feels more torquey than the later one, despite the later one having a slightly bigger engine. It's a very pretty little bonnet. I love seeing the 2 headlights, even if they are slightly off centre. I like the fact that the bonnet doesn't have the exhaust or the air intake sticking up. It gives me a nice clear view of what's in front of me. Yeah, I think if the seat was adjusted and I had that springiness in it, this would be the nicest little tractor I've driven around, well, almost forever. As it's not quite there, it's not perfect, but you know, considering like a couple of hours ago this was in a shed covered in brambles, totally forgotten and unloved, I'm pretty happy to have it out and take it for a drive. I mean, this has always been part of my dream in America, find a unloved, forgotten vehicle and manage to start it, and I've now managed to achieve that a couple of times on this trip. So, you know, I'm pretty happy. The most notable thing about this compared to my 35 and Ferguson 35 is the amount of heat I can feel on my right knee. I don't know if the exhaust has got a leak or if something's just quite hot around here, but it's very, very warm in my knee area. It's not so bad down this side on my left, but yeah, the right is very hot. It might just be heat coming straight off the manifold, but I can feel that today. Steering, yeah, it's lovely. Good for non-power assisted steering. Same as on the other tractors. You know where it's going, you feel comfortable with the steering. Good feedback. It's just, there it's a nice weighted steering. I love the steering on these tractors. It's a really, really nice steering wheel. The brakes are also really quite good. They stop this thing very well. Okay, because this works remarkably well. I can't stress how well this thing's working. This has been getting smoother and smoother since we started it and been running it, because it wasn't particularly happy when it was first fired up today, but all things considered, yeah, it's running great. The only thing I am slightly dubious about is it was full of coolant, but I've got no pressure gauge or water temperature gauge on it. So I've got no idea how hot it actually is and how happy it is. It might be totally happy and over the moon, or it might be suffering. I really can't tell at this stage. I can't see any steam erupting out of it, so I can only assume we're fine. What's rather sickening as well is this one, and the other one to be fair, have both got far better tyres than my own 35. I suppose my 35 was abandoned in the shed as well. They are really pretty little tractors as well. I really like the look of these. Again, it's a very stereotypical old tractor. Really is a travesty that it's been parked up and hidden away and forgotten about, but I'm just happy to have given it a bit of love and taken it out and showed it somebody cares. I can't stress, guys, how much I enjoy this and how much this is just me. I need a straw hat and a piece of straw and I can just be a proper country yokel and properly enjoy this. So what do I think about the Ferguson TO30? Well, it's simply quite an astonishing piece of kit that it's been abandoned in a shed for God knows how long, and it's fired up and driven around with nothing apart from a jump to the battery. What a fantastic little machine. And it's truly a delight to drive and operate. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. It's cute, isn't it? It really is fantastically cute. It drives well. It does what it says on the tin. It's a proper good tractor. So please, guys, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, leave a comment. Have you done something like this? Have you found a vehicle and managed to get it started and running and drive it around? Let us know below. And share this video with anybody, you know, who's into these tractor things. And if you've enjoyed this and you want to see the video on the Ferguson 35, click up there. Whereas if you want to see something else that I've done in America, how about clicking down there for one of the other vehicles I've looked at out here. Cheers, guys. We'll see you later. I'm just gonna stay here and enjoy the evening. What a fantastic place.